Well, Ambassador Edelman, I just wanted to at least be on record complimenting Secretary Gates' announcement at the end of his testimony that the tanker decision has been put off to the next administration. Again, I think the reasons he stated clearly show that he had the public interest in mind, and please convey to him, at least by hearsay, my compliments.
You do that.
Last April, when General Petraeus and Ambassador Crocker made the rounds before the House and Senate committees, Senator Biden asked sort of the point-blank question to Ambassador Crocker. Mr. Ambassador, is al-Qaeda a greater threat to U.S. interests in Iraq or in the Afghan-Pakistan border region? And Mr. Crocker's answer was, I would pick al-Qaeda in the Pakistan-Afghanistan border area. Again, coming from the ambassador in Iraq, it's a pretty powerful statement. And listening to Admiral Mullen today talking about the gravity of the situation in Afghanistan, I mean, the term that he used is that we are, quote, running out of time. And trying to sort of get both of those sort of contextual statements in sync with the President's announcement that we're going to send one Marine battalion in November, 2 months from now, and then an Army brigade in February. I mean, are we moving too slowly? It's hard to see how when we've identified the larger threat in one place and time is of the essence, how that time frame works.
Congressman, I would, one thing I would say is that first, Ryan Crocker is well situated to make that comment because he had not only been ambassador to Iraq, he's also been ambassador to Pakistan, so he knows both sides of the equation. I think, frankly, it would have been an interesting question if you had asked him at the very beginning of his tour whether he would have made the same statement then. I'm not sure he would have. There was a period of time when we knew al-Qaeda in Iraq was actively plotting against the homeland. It was a period of time when Zawahiri and bin Laden and others had said that Iraq was the central front for them in their struggle against the infidels and crusaders. I think that's changed over time, in part because of our success in Iraq in degrading al-Qaeda in Iraq, making them a less effective organization. We have seen indications that they are now moving their effort away from Iraq and towards Pakistan and Afghanistan. So some of that's been, I think, the inevitable adjustment that takes place in war between two contending adversaries. I'll
stipulate to that. I guess the question was, today in September, and given the timeline that the President, I mean, that's really the question we have to figure out is, are we doing what we need to do? Well,
first, I think we have already been increasing over the last couple of years the number of troops we have in Afghanistan, both because we've increased the presence of the NATO allies in ISAF. I think we've got about 20,000 more troops total in Afghanistan today than we did 2 years ago. That's before the President's announcements of the additional forces. We started to make adjustments, as Secretary Gates, I think, said in his opening statement in 2006 and 2007 as we dealt with the increase in violence and the recovery that the Taliban was making from the pretty significant defeat that had been inflicted on them in 2001, 2002. Again, I think you need to pull back and put this into a larger historical context. In Afghanistan, as Secretary Gates has said on a couple of occasions, we've been engaged in a project that essentially is both countercultural and counter-historical to Afghan experience. We've created a central government there for the first time that's trying to extend its writ. As we've brought more, as we've had more success politically with the first constitution, the first elected parliament, the first elected president, that has, of course, created a political circumstance in which the Taliban has not only had some time to recuperate, but now has a greater incentive to try and disrupt that effort.
We're about to run out of time. And again, maybe we can follow up afterwards. Sure. But, again, just looking at the weather and the fact that the winter is coming on, and obviously that's been a time for the Taliban to regroup. And, again, I'm just very concerned that this plan really doesn't match up with the needs. And, talking about the need to win hearts and minds with communication campaigns, I mean, relying on airstrikes for security, I think is the worst way for us to win hearts and minds. And clearly the collateral damage to civilians by not having enough boots on the ground in Afghanistan, I mean, it has a spillover in terms of the damage that we're doing to our public image there. And again, we can, as I said, maybe follow up later. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Agree with that.
Ms. Castor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for your service. How do you intend to develop a robust strategy in Afghanistan against al-Qaeda and the Taliban that involves, the desperate need for additional soft power resources, special operations personnel, when the White House has had tunnel vision